Hey guys, welcome to our Friday Killick. Hopefully you saw on Instagram the proverb that we're dealing today, Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. I think we're realizing in this lockdown that we aren't meant to be alone. We were not meant to be alone. We were meant to be in relationship with people. We were meant to be around people. When God created Adam, he was like, man, Adam seems sad. I should give him a helper. And so he went through all the animals and he's like, nah, these aren't good enough. So he made Eve because we weren't meant to be alone and we aren't meant to be apart from God either. That's why he desires us to have this relationship. And so this proverb speaks to that we need to be in relationship with one another, not just for companionship, but for growth as well. The problem happens when we stop looking to others to help us grow, when we think we've got it all figured out, when that arrogance gets in our heads, when we become an island, we begin to think that we are wiser than we really are. We begin to get in our heads that we know what's best and you can't tell me anything because I know what's best for me and I know what's best for everybody else, so just leave me alone. That is such a terrible way to live because, like I said, we begin to think that we are wiser than we really are. Our head starts to grow so big to the point that it can't support the rest of us and we just collapse eventually. Scripture says we are supposed to sharpen one another, that we are supposed to challenge one another to growth. But the question is, how do you know if someone is good for sharpening you or if they're like a block of wood and they would just dull you, right? When you sharpen knives, it is iron on iron. It creates sparks. It's exciting. There's a lot happening and those knives end up sharpening each other. But if you were to try to sharpen a knife with a block of wood and doing the same action, you would end up dulling that knife. So how do you know who in your life is a block of wood and who is a piece of iron that will help sharpen you? Well, the first thing I'd say is find people who you see learning from others as well. There are people that love to tell you what to do. There are people that love to just dish out advice, often unwarranted advice. You're not even asking and they're telling you, oh, let me tell you this, let me tell you that, let me do this. But they will reject anything told to them. That's a block of wood. That's not someone you want to go to have help sharpen yourself, to help you grow. But if you see people who are consistently growing in their faith, who are showing what it means to be a follower of Jesus by their words and actions, you know, because they speak of Scripture and they speak of growth themselves, find these people and together grow with them. Be like two pieces of iron sharpening each other. This sort of thing, to be able to accept that we are not perfect, that we are not everything, that we need help, this is such a sign of maturity. It's a sign of spiritual maturity. And not everyone gets to that point. Not everyone gets to that point because being able to being sharpened is a sign of humility. It's a sign that, you know what, I don't have this all figured out. Will you accept when someone comes to sharpen you? Will you accept that maybe right now you're a little dull, but you can get sharp? Here's what it says in Ephesians 4:15. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of him who is the head, that is Christ. If we speak to each other in love, we can grow and grow to become more like Christ. We can challenge each other. We can encourage one another. Maybe sometimes we need to rebuke one another. That's okay too. A rebuke can happen when it's done in love, that we need to change the direction we're going and turn around. Let people speak into that. So my question, are you a mature enough Christian to be able to sharpen someone else? And are you a mature enough Christian to be sharpened yourself? Can you give and accept biblical wisdom? Not just, this is what I think. You know what? I have something on my mind. That isn't sharpening one another. That's being a block of wood. But through Christ, as iron sharpens iron, so one sharpens another, we can grow together and become more effective. As always, I have a couple challenges for you at the end of these. The first one is always a reading one. I want you to read Ephesians 4. It speaks about what it means to be a mature follower of Christ and what that looks like. So read Ephesians chapter 4. Here's your second challenge. Find a friend, someone you trust, someone that you know, and ask him this question. Where in my life do you think I need to grow or mature? That's a scary, scary question to ask. Where in my life do you think I need to grow or mature? But if you can have those conversations and you can have this spiritual growth in your lives, you will become sharper and sharper. Any chef knows the duller your knife, the more dangerous it is. A dull knife is dangerous and it's useless. But the sharper it is, the more effective it is for use. So sharpen each other. And finally, a third challenge is go into your kitchen and safely sharpen those knives, because that's just a good culinary tip. Get those knives sharp so you can cut without having to push too hard. Let the knife do the work. There's nothing spiritual, that's just good cooking advice. So I hope you guys have had a good week. I love when we get together and meet, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. We'll talk to you next time. Toodaloo, buckaroos.